Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel BioBeavers, and today we are going to discuss the multiple choice paper. So we are going to start with a few tips. So I know for the May-June series, the multiple choice exam is scheduled in a few days. So tips for the students before they start revising and start working towards the exam. So these are a few pointers for everyone. So I know everybody would have already been preparing for the exam, and so this is something most of you would already know. So the exam paper, the 970012, that is the multiple choice question for A-level biology. That paper has 40 questions. And if you remember, we have about 11 chapters, or basically 11 units here that we are talking about. And out of the 11 chapters, we have 40 questions. So on an average, we have about 3 to 4 questions from each of the topics. So let's say you think that, okay, I am prepared for only about 7 chapters or about 8 chapters. So on an average, we are looking at about 24, 25 questions correct if you're really well prepared and there is no chance for a mistake there. So we are looking for a B or a C grade there. But try and prepare the 11 chapters, because there's always something which might come to your mind when you're attempting these questions. When you're preparing your chapters, now we are going to come to how to prepare for chapters. So you have to try and learn all the concepts which are there. There are going to be very few questions which are going to be direct. Most of them are going to be multiple choice in a way that they'll have multiple options to choose from when there are multiple answers. What I'm trying to say here, I'll come in the other video when I'm actually doing the paper. But coming back to the point, here is where you have to learn the concept. There won't be any direct questions. They are not going to ask you what is a telomere or what is a gene mutation. They are mainly going to ask you that if in a particular chromosome these many telomeres were found, or let's say we have a set number of chromosomes in a given slide to us and we assume these many telomeres are there, and if they undergo division, how many will be there after so many generations. So please make sure you're very clear with concept, especially in terms of numbers here. Answers for each of the questions are very close. So this is how this paper actually varies from the pure bio in IGCSEs. The answers here are very close. In fact, when you are talking about a particular topic, as I was talking about telomeres, they're going to have a statement about telomeres. All the 4 statements are going to be correct about the telomeres. But look at what the question is actually asking you. Is the question asking you about the structure of the telomere? Is the question asking you about the function of the telomere? Is it asking you specifically that a cell is dying and its death is related to some function in the telomere? So that's something that has to be answered. All the 4 options are very close to the telomere topic. Whenever you are attempting these questions, this is very important for you to remember. Always use an elimination strategy. Okay, always try and use an elimination strategy where out of the 4 answers which are given to you, try and cross out the ones which you're very sure about are not the answers. In the end, you will be left with the 2 very close answers. Okay, now you have to think smartly, reread the question again, try and think what it is asking, and then pick up the best one out of the two. There is very low chances of repetition from old papers. In fact, the repetition that can be there is that they might have the same diagram which has been used in past papers, and they might have a different question. So please do not think that if you've done many past papers and you've learnt up all the questions from the past papers, you might be able to score, because they might have the same diagram and you'll assume the answer is D, but actually the question is asking something completely different. The next point is, do not leave any question unattempted. So let's say we talked about in the starting, you think you're very well prepared for about 8 chapters, and the remaining 3 chapters you're not very well prepared about. So that doesn't mean that you're going to leave the questions for those 3 chapters. Read through the questions, think of the closest answer which comes to your mind when you are answering it. You have read the chapter in the past 1 year. While you had your classes, while you were interacting with your teachers, while you were reading the chapter, you did go through the topics. Maybe at some point of time, some interaction, some point discussed comes to your mind and you're able to attempt it. Do not leave any question unattempted. If you attempt the question as a wrong one, if you attempt that, then there is no mark which is being deducted. So let's say out of 40 questions, you had 6 questions which were wrong. There's not going to be a -6 there. So please make sure that you attempt your question well. Practice as many papers before the exam. I did say that it doesn't mean that if you're practicing paper before the exam, you'll be able to score the best, because there is no repetition. But the more you practice, the reason I'm saying that is, the more you practice, the easier it will be for you to understand which topics you are actually weak in. So the self-test while practicing these papers, which you're actually doing, will tell you the topics you are still very much weak at. So what you should be doing is taking up the strategy of attempting an MCQ paper, checking it. The marking scheme is easily available. Try and check that particular question and see out of 40, how many have you got wrong. Go back to the topics in your book, the ones which are wrong, re-revise those topics. That means there is still some scope for improvement which is there. Try and revise on those topics, very important. Then attempt the second paper. You will always have a few more mistakes where there was confusion. So every time you do a past paper, you come up with a strategy for the chapters to revise, because at this point of time, it is not possible to revise the entire syllabus, learn the entire syllabus. It is very important for you to be able to channelize your thoughts and energy towards the topics you're actually weak in. So please make sure you follow these points, and this is going to be really helpful. If there are any questions, do not hesitate to please put it there in the chat, and I will be very happy to answer. All the best, students, for your exam in the upcoming days. Post any questions which you have.